Hello, this is Lynn Matajan from Matajan's Herbals, and tonight we are talking about pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. Now, before we talk about pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns, there's a couple things I want to address, and that is I was watching a video by somebody who calls herself the Frugal Mom, and she does recipes and stuff like that. What she doesn't do, and what I have been doing, is I've been making these recipes like twice. So that it's like time-lapse photography, only live. So we'll start the process with the pumpkin tonight here, and then I've already got a pumpkin that's been roasted, and so instead of waiting the 45 minutes for the pumpkin to roast, we can go straight to the next step. Now, so my question to you is that important? Or should I just make it once for us all and only have one made? So if you can let me know what you think, then I will tailor these videos to your needs. So we're talking today about pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns. And so first of all, what we're going to talk about, I am missing one of the pages. So this is going to be from my memory instead of from what I had written down. And that is, jack-o'-lanterns are a tradition that comes from Ireland. Now, when they were using them to ward off evil spirits and ward off witches. And it was, and they used they didn't use pumpkins. They used big turnips and big potatoes. Now, the potatoes I understand because potatoes are easy to cut. Turnips are incredibly hard, very similar to like butternut squash, and actually to a certain extent to pumpkins as well. And so they had to be a whole lot stronger than me because when I have turnips in stew or something of that nature, it takes everything I can to just cut them in half and quarters, and to try instead to keep the turnip whole and just carve out the insides and carve out a face. That would have been really difficult, which actually tells you how much they believed that this is what would happen and this is what was doing. I think that pumpkins are not as hard as turnips, but you know, it is they're still pretty hard. So the myth behind jack-o'-lanterns is about a man called Jake the Stingy. And Jake the Stingy, they don't say when this happened, but it was obviously a very, very, very long time ago, was very stingy, and that's why they called him Jake the Stingy. It is, he invited the devil to have a drink. And when the devil acquiesced and had a drink with him, Jake the Stingy didn't want to pay for the drinks, and so he convinced the devil, which tells you he had a pretty facile tongue. He convinced the devil to turn himself into a coin that he could pay for the drinks. And then the idea was, after he paid for the drink, the devil would in turn turn back into the devil and would be off on his own adventures again. However, once the devil turned himself into a coin, Jake the Stingy decided to keep the coin, and he put it in his pocket along with a cross. Now, the cross made it so that the devil could not change forms. And the deal was for a year that the devil would change into a coin, and for 1 year, Jake would, if he died, would not be collected from the devil, and the devil would not take any punishment from him. So after a year, the devil turned back into the devil, and but he couldn't do anything to Jake because that was part of the deal that they had. Now, a little bit later down the line, the devil came back to Jake and wanted something or other, and Jake convinced the devil to climb a tree. Now, when he climbed the tree, as soon as he got up there, Jake carved a cross in the trunk of the tree, and so Jake could not come back, or the devil could not come back down again. Now, during that next year, Jake died. Jack died, and Jack's dying released the devil from the tree. Now, the devil decided that he didn't want Jake, or Jack. I don't know why I keep calling him Jake. He did not want Jack. And God decided that he also did not want such a disruptive force in heaven, and so he didn't take Jack. And so Jack then ended up being a ghost wandering the moors of Ireland and flashing light. So when you see flashing lights on the moors in Ireland, that is Jack the Stingy. Now, that is when they started making jack-o'-lanterns. They didn't call them jack-o'-lanterns at that time, but one of the spirits that they were warding off was Jack the Stingy. And so what happened at that point was, after a while, instead of calling him Jack the Stingy, the turnips and the potatoes became lanterns, and so they became jack-o'-lanterns. And that is the history of the jack-o'-lantern. Now, when people started moving to the United States, pumpkins are indigenous to the United States. They didn't at that time grow in Ireland. And when people came here and moved over here, people started using pumpkins instead of turnips and potatoes, because pumpkins were bigger and they were a pretty wonderful squash to use and also to eat. And so there's the history behind the jack-o'-lantern, and now we're going to talk about eating pumpkins. Now, if she is watching, Kim French is the one of the inspirations for this one, because I saw her make some amazing baked pumpkins, and she had them pictured on the on Facebook, and I decided, okay, that's one of the next classes. So I did bake or roast a pumpkin. Now, this pumpkin is a sugar pumpkin. There's a lot of different kinds of varieties, and while you can eat the jack-o'-lantern style pumpkins that are big, they're not quite as sweet, and they don't taste quite as good as a sugar pumpkin. The sugar pumpkin is what you would generally make a pumpkin pie with, or if you're making a casserole or something of that nature, that's kind of what you would make. So the first one that I did, I have to tell you, even before that, I went to the store today to get the pumpkins, and I got pumpkins, and I forgot to get the heavy whipping cream, so I've got to go back out and get that. And a couple of other different things. By the way, if you like ground lamb, Safeway has ground lamb on sale for $5.99 a pound. That's almost half price. So I see lamb burgers in my future. But went to the grocery store, took all I needed, went to the cash register, and paid for it, and then took my cart back over to the cart return and turned around and left. The good news is, before I got into my car, I realized that I didn't have my groceries. And it had been just a few seconds, so I ended up running back into the grocery store, finding my cart with all my groceries in it, and getting my groceries. So we were able to have tonight, because otherwise we wouldn't be doing that. Now, the first pumpkins that I made, I did not pre-cook. What I did was cut them raw. Now, the bigger the knife, this is the knife I ended up using. I actually started out with these two knives, and basically what I discovered is neither of these two worked. I think they weren't quite big enough, and it was very hard to get the pumpkin cut. So I did a little bit of research, and a lot of squashes they suggest that you like put it in the microwave and microwave it for 1 to 2 minutes and see if that didn't help. So this particular one is, I microwaved for 2 minutes and it still feels pretty tight and pretty harsh. So we're going to go ahead and see how that works. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. Oh, so much easier. This is a good lesson for me. I will be pre-cooking them every time. So much easier. All right, now this being said, I'm going to show you that this one doesn't look so good in the inside. I don't think that was from the cooking. I think that might have been that I chose a bad pumpkin. So the first thing we're going to do is take off the stem. Okay, and that's gone. So the second thing we're going to do is then take the seeds out. Now, if you take the seeds out with your hands as well as the spoon, it seems to work a little bit easier. But basically, you want all of the strings here in the center. You want as much of those out as possible as well. Now, as I look at this pumpkin, I'm going to tell you that I'm probably not going to bake these. I'm going to throw it away because it just does not look good inside. But I'm going to go ahead and at least get part of this accomplished so that we can see how to do it. Now, I'm putting the pumpkin seeds in a colander because the plan was to actually use the seeds as a snack and go ahead and cook them. Now, this pumpkin looked fine on the outside, so I'm not quite sure how you would pick a better pumpkin. But it does not look nice on the inside, and so we're not going there. Now, once, sounds like a phone ringing, but I don't have a phone that has that kind of a ring tone. So what you're going to do is you're going to end up, once you've got the pumpkin all fixed, you're going to grease your pan, and I'm using olive oil. Now, the other thing that I do, here's a frugal cook hint, is I went to the Lowe's years ago and I bought a paintbrush because a paintbrush is a whole lot cheaper than a pastry brush and it works just as well. So then you put your pumpkin cut side down and then you grease the outside. And then what you're going to do is put it in a preheated oven at 400 degrees and cook it for 40 to 45 minutes until it's tender to a fork. And then you're ready to make the next steps. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just move this out of the way because we're not going to bake it. Alright, so while the pumpkin is baking, then you've got the pumpkin seeds. Now, pumpkin seeds are high in vitamin A, in beta carotene, and in a whole lot of other good things for you. What it is not high in is protein. As medicine, pumpkin works on inflammation of the prostate. It is a diuretic. It helps with digestion if you're constipated. If your dogs are constipated, it will help the dog. If you put ground pumpkin seed meal in the dog's food, it will help the dog with that as well. Now, the easiest way to get these clean is to, and like I said, I'm not going to use these because even the seeds don't look good, is to put your colander in the sink and put a real fine stream of water running through the cauldron, or the, Zachary calls it the holy pan, the colander. Now, if you just pull out the big pieces that have a lot of the pumpkin strings, and all you have to do is easily pull these out. Now, if you end up with a little bit of the pumpkin in there, it doesn't really matter. You just want to get the big pieces out. And you can see it's coming out incredibly easy. It is, and so I am almost done with this already. So at this point, there's a little bit in here, and so what I would probably do is just swish these around with the water running on them to make sure that I get the most of everything out. But there it is. See, it's already gone. It's done and ready to go. Now what you're going to do, and I'm going to wash my hands here because my hands are all pumpkiny, is you're going to put these in a bowl. So here's the bowl that I was going to use. I put them in the bowl, and then at this point they're kind of wet because I've been rinsing them and rinsing them. You take a paper towel and you dry them, and that is the key point, is you need to make sure that the pumpkin seeds are as dry as you can make them. All right, and once they're dried, then you put in about 3 tablespoons of melted butter and whatever spices you want to do with this. Now, the ones that I made, they're not made yet, they haven't been baked, but there they are, ready to go in the oven and be baked with the pumpkin that was good. And it is, and I used salt and Worcestershire sauce, or however you say that. Lee and Perrins is what I call it. And make sure that all of them are, I stir them around so that all of it is coated. And then what you're going to do is you are going to preheat your oven to 250 degrees, and you're going to bake them for 45 minutes, stirring occasionally. And after 45 minutes, you're going to increase the oven setting to 325 and bake it until it is lightly browned, which is about an additional 5 minutes. And then you can serve them from there. You can serve them hot, you can serve them cold. You can use them as a garnish in soup. You can use them as at the top of salad. You can make a pesto out of them. You can add them to muffins, and it said here that you can even add them in candy. I'm not quite sure what kind of candy that would be, but it's going to be something that I think will be fun to look at. So there you've got the pumpkin seeds as well, and so it's a nice snack, and you're not throwing them away, which is kind of cool. All right, so now here are the pumpkins that I baked. Now, I did go a little bit faster on these, didn't do a full 45 minutes because I was running out of time. And so these are actually pretty warm right now. I can certainly see the steam rising. I don't know if you can, but it's still. So what you're going to do at this point is take the skin off. Now, probably the easiest way to do it, you can either pull it off just like this. And if you pull it off like this, it comes off very clean. The other way you can do it is to use a spoon and just scoop it out. And this is what it looks like. Now, you can eat this just like this. Put some butter and some cinnamon on it. and it's a nice vegetable. I'm actually going to make soup out of these, and it is a cream of pumpkin soup, and so I'm kind of looking forward to that. And I will put the recipes for the pumpkin seeds and how to bake the pumpkins, and also for the pumpkin soup on tomorrow, and so you can try it if you want. Obviously, since I'm throwing away one of these pumpkins, we've got to figure out how to pick a good pumpkin, because that one certainly looked like it when I bought it. It is fall to me. Pumpkins are a big part of it, and I love the taste of it, and so I'm real excited about this. You can roast butternut squash like this. You can roast acorn squash. Pretty much any squash you can roast like this. Now, when I'm making an acorn squash, I will put a sausage link and about a tablespoon of maple syrup in it, and I will roast them cut side up, because obviously if I was roasting them cut side down, the syrup and the sausage wouldn't go in there. But that's another really good thing. What you have to recognize is that as good as squash tastes, there's not a whole lot of protein. And so if you are not having a protein-heavy day, you're going to want to add some cheese or something that does have additional protein in it. Otherwise, you could end up being a little malnutritious, and you don't want to be. So that's what I've got for you on pumpkins today. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do on Monday, but it will be something Halloween. Maybe some fun Halloween crafts would be kind of a fun thing to do. And so, matter of fact, I think we just decided. So if you have any other questions, if you have any thoughts, please write them down. I was thinking today, too, that maybe one day, instead of me sitting here and just yakking about what I want to, maybe what we can do is have just a question and answers with Gran, and we'll open it up to simply you ask me questions and I'll respond, because, well, at that point we can do the camera close so I can read the questions and respond to them immediately. So if you think that's a good idea, let me know, and we'll do that as well sometime soon. Thank you so very much for joining me, and I'll be thinking about you when I'm eating my pumpkin soup. So you take care, and blessed be. Bye-bye.